Let's go. People, Deluded, I'm back again. You lot called for it. Like my manager and our football team, we have delivered. We've got the man, the myth, James Bellis in the building. What are you saying, my guy? You good?
I'm good, man. How are you doing?
I'm sweet, man. You can see this around my neck. We're champions. I know the World Cup's going on, but we can never let them forget. What are you saying, man?
No,
How's your season been treating you?
Listen, that was one roller coaster of a season, but it ended with what we wanted. And even the pain of the Champions League final couldn't take away what we got to enjoy. And we spoke about that on Talk Sport, didn't we, with Adrian Clark and Perry Groves, which was great. So we've been able to chat about it a little bit, but I'm looking forward to getting into this. Obviously, transfer stuff, Ødegaard, Rodgers, all that. So plenty to go into. But listen, man, big up to the chat. Thank you for having me back. I know I've been promising this for months, and it's my fault it hasn't happened sooner. I have been a little bit all over the world, which isn't how I normally
man, you're
live
a
my
flyer,
life.
man. You're a frequent flyer. James is out here, man. He's international.
It's not me. It's not really what I'm like. But
it's the lifestyle, James, man.
I wish, yeah. It's just what I do. No, it's just circumstantial. Literally, all these trips circumstantial. But it's good to be back. Good to be settled. And I'm ready for a big summer. The World Cup's been great. I don't know what you think, but I think it's been a brilliant tournament. And I'm ready to chat transfer stuff. Like, I'm ready to look at what's next for Arsenal. How are you, mate? How's everything been?
I'm good, man. Like you said, man. I mean, you're part of the furniture on this platform. We appreciate you for being here. Me and you have been... It'd be fair to say we've been in a lot of shows on TalkSport, and the climate around Arsenal, sometimes it's been positive, sometimes it's been negative. The glass has been half empty or half full, depending on how you look at it. So, I'm happy that we can now talk, obviously, when things are going right. Obviously, you're doing great things in your personal life. Every Arsenal fan I get on this platform, my guy, we're smiling for the obvious reason. So, like you said, I'm happy to get into it. You touched on the World Cup. I was critical on the World Cup. I was dissing it before it. It's gone into gear. It's been amazing. There's plenty of talking points to discuss, man. So, big up yourself. But before we get into the transfers, which you're itching to get into, obviously we've been on a journey, my boy. We've been on a mad journey, and you're here now. It's only right to get me to ask you certain questions in a bit of a reflective kind of mode.
100%.
I know you alluded to it, but now the season's gone. We obviously, unfortunately, did not win the Champions League, League Cup finalist, the FA Cup. It is what it is. But after 22 long years, 3 years or 4, depending on how you look at it, under Arteta, we won the Premier League, man. So kind of take me throughout the season and take me towards that. And also, like, obviously, now that it's finally settled in, how are you feeling about us, man?
Well, do you know why it's such a great question? Because I think most fans would sit here having won the Premier League and basically only have good to say. And that's how I've lived my life as an Arsenal fan since we won it. Everything is great. We just lost the Champions League final. It's fine. We've got the parade tomorrow. Like, everything has been, where the energy should be, because we've waited so long. And also, I always find this waiting so long thing interesting, because I wasn't just waiting for so long. I'd actually never experienced it. So I was like, this is the first time I've ever known Arsenal as Premier League winners. So it was almost a different feeling to just, I know what it's like. I want it again. I had this desperation, but I've never had it. So trust me, I've tried to just really enjoy that moment. The thing is, though, I don't know. I really fight against this narrative that we are the worst champions. Nonsense. And I know it's rivals trying to wind us up, and I know it's the media who've got nothing better to talk about. It's factually not true. It's statistically not true. On the eyes, our results, getting to the Champions League final, the quadruples on at one point. It's like untrue on so many levels. But we are probably one of the only champions I can remember where there's a feeling of, but we've got a lot of work to do this summer. And that is quite rare. It is quite rare that a team wins the league and then they go, now we need to kick on. Normally it's, well, let's add a couple pieces, refresh and go again. Whereas I think we feel like there's a low-key overhaul, which is kind of insane. So I do feel that amongst what was an amazing accomplishment, the bumps were too bumpy, in my opinion. And I think whilst we can say next season there's 5 new managers for the rest of the Big Six, we can simultaneously say in previous years, we'd have been run really close in that race. And we were already run close by Man City that should never have been in that conversation. Now, it's the 22nd of June. Yeah. This is the 22nd of June. We've had plenty of time to dine on being the champions, how amazing it is. And we should keep doing that until someone nicks that trophy off us. but I think we can also have honest conversations. There's work to be done.
James, this is why I think, I always say to you, I always make the joke, either on TalkSport or when we're talking privately, we're like Thierry Henry and Dennis Bergkamp, because
I like that.
What you just said there, yeah. And I'm just going to say I co-sign it. I agree with it, because many people see what you just said there, and you're either mad positive, mad negative. Clearly, you're positive about, simply put, getting over the line, all the adversity, whatever they say about us, we've done what we needed to do. But the eye test doesn't lie. And I think, this is a great way to kind of segue into it, because I wholeheartedly agree in the sense that I think our attackers had moments, and they had great moments, and I praise them all on one hand. Like, you call it over the line. There's so much stuff that wasn't in vain. The Eze against Spurs, Gyökeres's first half of the season to now. Fair enough, Saka wasn't fit, but at the end of the day, he played a part in us getting the Premier League. Whatever we'd say about Trossard and Martinelli, but I think they had moments. There was that level of consistency that's needed. Now, I have seen little times where I think Mikel Arteta's looked to tweak things in an attacking sense, and I'm obviously aware that teams, simply put, they are trying even harder to narrow the space against us. So I can always hear that, but we need to go up a gear, several gears really in attack. There's probably stuff we need to do around, particularly the Rices, the Salibas, the Gabriels, making sure they're not playing as many minutes as much as we can, because that is something that could bite us on the arse. But James, to a degree, yeah, that is where I look at it positively, maybe a bit naively because I'm drinking the Kool-Aid and whatnot. But I look at it and think,
agree with you.
Exactly that. Arteta always learns. He might be thinking, okay, in my heart, I'm not stupid. I know I need to kind of rest Rice. So depending on what we do in central midfield, I know the attacking gears need to go. The players individually, Eze, Saka, they've got their Instagram moments. They've achieved history, but they'll all be sitting there. Unless you're probably Max Dowman in the attack, yeah, you'd probably be sitting there saying, I can do more throughout the case of the season. I can show greater consistency. And then I see the work Berta's doing at all levels, from the academy to the first team. We all know we're going to move people on. As you said, there is a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of conversations we're probably going to have across the course of this that me and you've probably had the last 3-4 years, or felt them internally. But that's what gives me a lot of positivities, though, James, to a degree.
Well, mate, 100%. You win a title and you feel like you've still got loads to improve on. Sky's the limit. You get to the Champions League final. You get to 2 other finals, and you feel like, if Mosquera doesn't concede that silly penalty, if Kai Havertz scores that early chance against Man City, are we talking about something of a treble, not the treble? But now, okay, football if buts and maybes, because if Guehi doesn't make the back pass and if Raya doesn't make that save against Fernandes, maybe we've won the other 2 but not the Premier League. So ifs, buts and maybes can float everywhere, but 100% it's a great position to be in, to feel like you can improve. I want to say 4 areas of the pitch.
Let us know, man.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think we'll get into it. And actually, I'm really interested to know what the comments think. Like, what are the priority positions? But I think there's 3-4 areas we can definitely improve and still be champions. Like, I think that's a really that's a good position to be in for sure. And I want to. Did you see the clip? I know both of us are on Twitter. We use the app, or X, whatever it's called. Remember that clip, which I did regret it. It was the one of me on James Alcott's channel talking about Arteta's message. Did you see that clip?
Yeah.
I stand by what I said. I regret how I said it. Like, I stand by how I felt is probably a better way.
Why?
I stand by how I felt. What's that? Sorry?
The message was right. Why do you regret it? What you said wasn't a lie.
Well, and it caused a lot of debate. There's a lot of
it did, and people can disagree, but maybe it's just because of how I am. Yeah, sometimes it's not the messenger or how the message said, but what actually is the message you've said. And I think actually, when you look at what James said, I don't disagree with it. But go ahead, James. I'm cutting.
Well, I stand by completely how I felt in that moment. That I felt that a lot of the things in press conferences didn't make a lot of sense. That there's a bit of a contradiction. I felt that there was just things I found frustrating about Arteta in press conferences personally. Now, the things I went on record saying I regretted was the way I worded it, because I worded it something like I don't not believe. Something like, maybe I said believe, maybe I said understand. So I don't feel Arteta's message anymore is what I said, and that made it sound like an overall picture. Basically, like, I don't believe in the guy anymore. Which,
but people are always going to see 30 seconds of a 10-minute segment and draw conclusions. Social media, man.
Yeah, and the way I worded it wasn't best. And the second thing I regretted was actually the timing. I think we were in the thick of a title race. Like, what? Let's just crack on. But the reason I bring all this up, I already see some of the comments saying James always over worrying. Now, the
You got
reason
to over worry. Arteta over worries. That's why he does what he does in life.
well, I suppose that's true, right? If you want to be a perfectionist, you're going to listen to everything. But
exactly.
the thing I have to say, and the reason I brought this up, to not be a hypocrite or or to be completely unfair, is that if I'm going to be critical when I feel like the things he's saying don't resonate with me, I have to praise massively the things that do.
Equally,
Yeah. And when he said, do you know how hard I've worked to be here? That resonated with me. When he said, when he was sort of talking about fire and everything at the end of the season, and he brought Lewis Skelly into the team, and he said, maybe I've been hard on Lewis Skelly. I should have brought him in sooner. That
very
resonated
reflective from the manager.
Absolutely. But the third huge thing that really resonated with me was Champions League final. He said, we need to be very ambitious. We need to be very smart. We need to be very quick. And when asked whether we want to play more like PSG, he said yes. On an individual level, yes, we do. And
that's one thing we said on TalkSport, that Luis Enrique and Arteta, you could kind of see that being the trajectory. So I think
exactly. And this was why I brought this up. This whole previous clip was to say, when he does Arteta get the message right, you're like, my manager, let's go. Like, because and that's why I think it's so important that we do care about what he says and how he says it. And in that moment, we just lost a Champions League final. Now, we lost a Champions League semi-final, which we did very well to get to against PSG, the same opposition. And he came out with, well, I've just been told we're the best team in Europe. And if you look, we could easily have won it.
Fine margins and that.
And we're there going, come on, like, we're not on their level. After this, where I actually thought we were much better, much more competitive, could have won, albeit with an uglier brand of football, he went, no, we've got work to do. And I loved that. And so that's what gives me real hope that he is looking at this Premier League title and going, great, but that is not, that we have a lot to do still. And it just makes me pumped for what's next. I don't feel this exhaustion after 63, 64 games of like, that was such a long, grueling season. I really need a break. I'm like, when's preseason? When's the next signing? When's the first? Let's go. I feel pumped because Arteta has really like instilled that in us quite quickly after a really disappointing final.
And they finally delivered. And when you look at it, like, let's have it right. The last 3 years prior to us winning the Prem, we've shot ourselves in the foot. We have been a good team. We've had some great days out, but we haven't had anything tangible. What the fans have been working to, what the players have been working to. And there's got to have been several periods throughout the last 3 seasons where they've had them highs, like beating Real Madrid versus going out against PSG, or several times domestically, where it's become clear, no, there's no optimism. We cannot win the Premier League. There was going to be an element of thinking, we can't get over the line. We can't get over the line. So now all the blood, sweat, and tears, all the elements we see and don't see have come to something tangible. So you can be nothing but optimistic. I'm a big fan of when everything's negative and we feel that way, by all means, pour your energy in that. And we don't know whether we're going to succeed necessarily, but the way Josh, the way Berta, the way what you just said about Arteta and everything we know of the guy, the players, it's like tasting steak for the first time. They're finally going to want, because that's one thing I like about our players. They don't rest on their laurels. Of course, we've got a long way to work on, man. You alluded to the Champions League. It would have been an amazing stink fest to win the Champions League. Apologies in that kind of way. There's a lot of ifs and buts. If a lot of Arsenal fans I speak to, some don't necessarily subscribe to the idea that when Kai scored, that actually worked in our favor. But then I picked the question to them: if it started 0-0, we might have had to absorb a bit more pressure. So there's plenty of learning curves. Fundamentally, we've won the league when we have not been at our best, where we've had our good moments. We've stood tall. Obviously, we've won the most games. When it was time to lock in May, I have to credit them because the tide did feel like it's turning. From the start of the season, James, I believed we could win the league. Obviously, for me, Wolves away and Bournemouth at home, to go with what City, I thought, yeah, it's done. It's done. But I know we poke fun at it in a good way, but whether it's Declan Rice, whether it's the manager, they've earned that trust from myself. And as you said there, I'm pumped. And I want to kind of ask you about this because obviously you ain't got a crystal ball, James, but I look at our rivals. we've got a lot of things working in our favor, bro. Like, we've got stability. Whatever you like or don't like about Arteta, we know exactly what he does. We know our players' way is working. We can evidently see how we want to improve. You look at the Cities, the Uniteds, the Spurses, the Chelseas, etc., etc. It's not to say they're going to be bad, but we don't know. Not to mention they've got a lot of mess. So you could be either scared of the unknown, or you could say, do you know what? We've got a chance to at least retain this Premier League and maybe go one better in the chance. But what do you feel about the rivals, man?
Yeah, Liverpool worry me. Liverpool worry me big time. And you know, and City. Now, okay, wow, what a take. The two last champions before us, I'm worried about. It's not exactly revolutionary, but actually, I'll give you a little bit more than that. I worry about them because I think Man City trying to replace Pep Guardiola, nigh on impossible. But so was replacing Jurgen Klopp, and Arne Slot won the league in his first season. When you've got the ingredients of a core that includes Haaland, Shirky, Rodri, maybe Anderson now, Donnarumma, Diaz if he's there, Gvardiol, Kusanov, man, there'll be a problem next season. I don't know if they'll be good enough to win because I don't know if Maresca was a title-winning manager, but they'll be good. And maybe he just instills enough new ideas and he freshens it up enough for City to be really just buoyed by that. And they could be a problem. And that's all Arne Slot did. Arne Slot, what I don't want to do is reduce his title win to, oh, it's Klopp's team. That's not fair. But also, let's call a spade a spade. He had Klopp's players. He didn't get to add many. He didn't tweak a lot. But what he did was go, McAllister as a 6 is done. McAllister in a double pivot with Gravenberch. So you got a blend of profiles who complement each other.
Get a lot more of a tune out of that.
Perfect. So he did a lot of things like that. Mo Salah, I'm not going to ask him to defend. He doesn't want to do that. He's too good. But we'll get Szoboszlai drifting to the right. We're going to get Konate covering for Trent. So the right-hand side can do what it's got to do, but it's got the protection to do it as well. Like, he just tweaked, and I just wonder whether Maresca will do something. You know, Maresca got high output from Cole Palmer. Who say he can't do that with Ryan Shirky? So I think that...
Good point.
Yeah, so I think he's, you know, and when all is said and done, and we say, who are the best players in the league? The best players right now, all at their very best, who are they? Arsenal fans, don't get upset with me. Haaland and Rodri are still top 2, and they play for Man City. So that's where I do think they're going to be a problem. Now, Liverpool, I think Andoni Iraola is primed to take this Liverpool side that have a blend of, we really need to change, and we need new ideas, but also we were Premier League champions a year ago. And I think, what did he just have to do at Bournemouth last summer? He had to lose his goalkeeper and 3 of his back 4. Well, Alisson's not fit. Trent's gone. Konate's gone. Robertson's gone. The left back coming in for Robertson, who they've had for a year now, is a former Iraola left back in Kirkes anyway. So he's primed to deal with that kind of rebuild because he's done it before. He knows how to instill good football out the back in build up into new players very quickly. Florian Wirtz, I think, is going to thrive under him. I think he's going to be really, really good.
Unfortunately.
Such a shame about the Ekitike injury, but it's a clear run for Isak now. You're the one. You're the number 9, right? Ekitike will come back and we'll figure that out. But for now, we're going to do this. And the football is going to energize Anfield, I think, much more than Xabi Alonso's football would have. So I think they're a problem too. The problem is you can't replace Mo Salah quickly. And I think Diomande is brilliant. But I actually still see him developing more on the left than on the right. So I don't really know if that's a replacement. It might be someone else. So I've said a lot on those two. Chelsea, United, Spurs, unfair to put them in the same conversation because I think Man United are much closer to the other 3 than Chelsea and Spurs. Obviously, you can't rule out Villa. Newcastle have money. You can't rule them out.
And there's always a random dark horse at some point throughout the season.
So true, so true. So I think United will be competitive, but I think the extra games, we have to learn a lot. Chelsea will be better because Xabi Alonso's a good manager. Tottenham will be better because De Zerbi's a good manager.
And 1 game a week.
Yeah, but that's true. But then we always do this. They'll be better. They'll be better. They'll be better. We don't know this. And it's said all the time about Arsenal. Oh, you missed your chance because everyone else will be better. You don't know that. So,
and we're going to improve as well.
There we go. There we go. And I think we are going to improve more than the others are going to improve, personally.
And I'm with that as well. I mean, it might look more obvious with them because let's have it right. They've got a lot more better yet wholesale changes to kind of make. For example, Xabi Alonso going to Chelsea. I know the dynamics are different, and granted, I'm an Arsenal fan, but I do get shades of Mikel Arteta in Xabi Alonso, and purely because it's almost they need open heart surgery. They've got more players that they can pick, and there's obvious areas. Man United is more for me about depth, how good Carrick really is, and how it looks playing more than 40 odd games. I mean, like you said, I mean, it's not a shock, but City and Liverpool, they can get their house in order very quickly. Unfortunately, to Maresca, you're not Pep Guardiola, but he has been scheming on that kind of role for a minute now, and he's come from that kind of City school of thought, like a Vincent Kompany, like the man in question, like a Mikel Arteta. So it'd be interesting. I don't think Spurs are going to do anything seriously, but based on what we see on the papers in terms of their intention and what I think of De Zerbi in 1 game a week, they're going to be doing whatever. But so we are going to improve. For you, though, like I know it's kind of obvious, and from what I know of you in the conversations, I probably know, but for people in the chat, for Arsenal to improve, before we talk about transfers, purely from a tactical element with the manager and these players, for you, what needs to go up a gears? Where's the areas?
Yeah, well, now we're into the meat of all this. And by the way, shout out the chat. They're being so lovely about us and our content. So big thank you to them.
Big up the chat, man. Thank you.
No, I appreciate it a lot. And Rob G, I think Rob G AFC, you just asked me about the new podcast. It's been going great. So thank you, man. I appreciate it a lot.
Go subscribe, folks.
No, I appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much. Genuinely. I just didn't want people to think I hadn't seen it, but I do appreciate it a lot. So the problem area is, what a question, because it's layered in what are the positions we need to improve, but also what is the style of football we want to play, and then who are the signings that are even available. I was doing something with Alex Moneypenny of the
Big him up, different look
always, and he was saying maybe Arsenal are going more for quality rather than profile. So Rodgers might not be a perfect fit, but he's the best attacker we can get on the market. Yeah, that actually sounds very, very plausible. I still feel that there's got to be a degree of, they solved this problem. And I think Arsenal quite clearly want to add a left winger. We're not
scratching our heads like a left winger. Are you a left winger? And are you a demon? I get you.
Yeah. So, what we were saying about 2 things could be true. We're champions. We're not the worst champions. We have lots to improve. I'll give you another one. And I saw a tweet on this. I wish I could remember who said it and quote them. They said, why do Arsenal always sign players just like not for their actual position? And then we kind of need to figure it out. So I'm going to give you 2 more things that are true. We do, I think, don't want to be too harsh. The signings have been great. So, okay, let's go with the positive. I think our recruitment since Arteta's come in has been brilliant. It's been so much better. And I think you do well to find genuine fails in there. Even Fabio Vieira was fine for 2 years for 35 million, which is nothing.
Success to failure rate's been a lot better under our manager.
Way better. Simultaneously, there have been so many signings where I'm like, why? and really for that position, has it really worked? Things like that. And I think there's quite a few examples of misprofiling in my opinion.
But I'd actually say him, he was the first one that came to mind. I'll be so honest, because a lot of them, I like that kind of football, James. As much as I criticize the team, I do understand in the current day you need multiple players. But then I agree with you in that there's a lot of players that are not necessarily bad, but you have to kind of scratch your head. They don't necessarily, like, I need a screwdriver. I don't necessarily need this all-in power tool that has an elements of being a screwdriver. We don't necessarily do that. But I think Kai's one, because there's got to be a reason. He's played for top teams. He's liked by top managers. He's done very well at our club. But did we buy you to play up front? I know you can play there. We didn't buy you to play up front. The left 8 thing didn't quite work. Now, granted, what we're talking about is talking about. But yeah, man, I like what you said there. Food for thought, James.
Yeah. And by the way, that's fine because it worked. It's worked. It's great. And the players have been brilliant. But Ben White played a whole season at centre-back. Was the intention always to move to right-back? Now, if it was,
true,
brilliant, genius. We just don't know that. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying it wasn't. I'm saying we don't know. And it's a little strange to sign a guy for 50 million who plays at centre-back next to Gabriel to then move him to right-back. But fine, whatever. It's worked. He was great. Declan Rice was very much signed to be a 6. Suddenly he's playing as a left 8, really high up the pitch for a couple of years before, in the final 5-6 games of the season, he moves back to the 6 so Lewis Skelly can come in with him.
He even changed his role towards the back end of this year as well, from what you're referring to.
Absolutely. Kai Havertz, he was a left 8 signing. Let's just admit it, everyone. He was. He did start the community field up front. He did. That was an option. I'm sure Arteta always knew he could play there. Of course he did and had it in mind, but he wanted to do the left 8 thing. Even last season, he started away at Palace behind Jesus in like a, trequartista role or tip of a diamond. So anyway, we've done it a few times where Trossard's not a touchline winger, but we've shoved him on the touchline. Calafiori's a centre back. We made him a roaming left back. Like, we've done this a lot. It's fine. It's not a bad thing. Yeah. Zubimendi was a 6, and we turned him into like a Gundogan, just like bombing forward. Anyway, Mikel Merino is another great example. Mikel Merino, we didn't just turn him to a box crasher. We went, oh, nice finishing. You're going up front.
And he's become clutch at the club now.
Absolutely, albeit that was circumstantial. So we do this a lot. Now, I think Arsenal, sorry, it's taking me 5 minutes just to start answering your question.
No, we're here for everything you got to say, James. We're enjoying this.
Very kind of you. I think the context is important. I think Arsenal are looking at combining what's in the reports and what my feeling is about who's going to go. I think we're looking for a right back and a left back. I think we're looking for a 6/8. But more, I think, an 8. Because I think he sort of sees Rice and Mendy and Lewis Skelly covering that fine. I think that's why
we need some more goals from the middle of the park, man.
Yeah. Do you ever? I'll keep adding to this in a sec. But do you ever? We followed Arsenal for a long time. Followed transfer stuff. Do you ever stop and go, this reminds me of a few others? And this season's one is Alex Scott. Just the way it went from Alex Scott is admired to suddenly the ITKs mention Alex Scott to suddenly. Well, Arsenal made contact with his representatives to they're looking for a 6/8. They like Buadi, but Scott's an option. I start to go, I think we're signing Alex Scott.
He's one of them that can play everywhere, and we like him for what he's worth. But we don't really know. Not even if you were to say with Alex Scott, for argument's sake, he's a 6 for the rest of his life. He's an 8. He's an interior kind of winger. That's cool. But when you look at us and our dynamics and what we need or don't need, beyond ability and who's better, you can't see evidently beyond you just being a good player what do you actually solve. Now, granted, Arteta, we understand why you do what you do, but great. Right, James, you're right still.
Yeah. So I think we'll get a 6/8, and I actually think it'll be Alex Scott. But then something tells me that Buadi is way more advanced than we think. So let's see. And then I think, what's that? Sorry,
the Real Madrid links. Apologies with Buadi are scaring me, man.
I know what you mean, but also like Real Madrid press just do this. They really throw their weight about only to sign like Dumfries, Mourinho. Like I'm really unimpressed by their window, if I'm honest. Even Bernardo Silva, I'm not sure is like a Real Madrid fit, but he'll do well there because he's brilliant. So I'm just really unmoved by Real Madrid, to be honest. But then, so we've said right back, left back, 6/8. Then my hot take. 2 attackers come in because I don't think Rodgers. Yeah, I don't think Rodgers is a winger, and I think Arteta might do. He might chuck in there a little bit. He's not a winger, and he's not going to end up there. And I think this is where your title comes into play. Ødegaard out for Morgan Rodgers. I think there's really something in this, mate.
James, you looked like a madman, And when I had to make that title, because you was right. I remember, like you mentioned, with Adrian Clark and everybody, you mentioned we was talking about hot takes or that section, or maybe we wasn't. You said Ødegaard potentially, and I backed it. And I think I like the boldness from you because I did feel, on one hand, Ødegaard's loved by the manager. We know what he gives tactically, but you got 2 years on your deal. You can see what we're kind of doing there. So, like, I want to kind of focus on this as well. Like, why did you initially believe that? And what's the sentiment for that now, man?
So you're actually being way too kind to me because it was actually Adrian Clark who brought it up. Now, let me be
Adrian as well, man.
Yeah, right. So, by the way, if people in the chat, Adrian and Perry, the classiest people. Like, so great to work with them, especially as like what they've achieved in football, right? To like,
it's surreal sometimes making content with them. I'll be real.
Yeah, exactly. And for them to like appreciate our opinions and like be polite and entertain what we have to say when with everything they've done, it's like, you're like, they're very, very, just their class acts. Anyway, I have to caveat, I'm not putting words in Adrian Clark's mouth. All he said was maybe Ødegaard, and he listed why. I thought, that's bold. Like, Adrian Clark works for the club. This is the club captain. Like, that's quite a... Now, I'm not trying to pour fuel on a fire that's not there. Like, it could have just been a standard opinion. He is not saying I know something. He never said that.
He's not saying I'm David Ornstein or anything.
Yeah, he's not saying that whatsoever. But I thought, okay, that's quite a bold thing to say. You know, it's the club captain we're talking about. And it's not just because Adrian Clark, I think anyone's saying it. Then suddenly Sammy Mockbell says, you know, Ødegaard, they might be willing to listen. I thought, okay, this is, again, one of the biggest journalists in the Arsenal space bringing up Ødegaard after fans had maybe mentioned it. Then Hand of Arsenal retweets that quote. Hand of Arsenal doesn't do anything by accident.
The legend Hand of Arsenal, yeah. And then it's like, ooh.
He could have he could have reposted anything through that. So I'm just and I apologize profusely to anyone I've just mentioned if I have read too much into this, if I have done 1 + 1 = 15 and I'm just being an idiot. And be very clear, I'm not putting words in people's mouth, but I start to think this is getting a little bit too loud. So I think there's something in there. I don't think Arsenal are trying to sell him, but I think Arsenal are really open. I think they're like, yeah, you can go. If the money is right, you can go. I personally think that's how Arsenal feel about it.
Why do you think that with Ødegaard? Because for me, I think it's a weird one. It's like, obviously, I'm not, like you said, suggesting anything. And I'm not saying it just because I say this means it's not the wrong option or the right option, yeah. But we just won a Premier League. Martin Ødegaard's your captain. That's the first kind of elephants in the room people will address. What kind of message does that stand? But now, on the other hand, we do call in general in football clubs to make the difficult decisions. We've seen that. I know it's not the same. Everybody loved Ramsdale. Raya came in. Hindsight has shown why the manager's the manager, right? And I wanted to ask you, like, why? Because I look at it and say, several people signed new deals last year, right? The Timbers, the Ryers, and I think there's someone else I'm missing out. Declan Rice. They're all in line for new deals. Obviously, Eze and all the other signings we brought in last summer. This summer, we're probably going to put some decent wages. We all know Gabriel Jesus, Reece Nelson, Fabio Vieira. The list kind of goes on. You mentioned Sammy Mockbell. I remember last summer, he spoke about Kai Havertz as well in that regards. Obviously, a year's come on, he's kind of been dead in that regards. But my point of saying that is to say this. You've got Eze, you potentially get Rodgers. Wanyeri could very well leave, but between him and Dalman, one of them could be groomed kind of into that role. You signed Ødegaard, and it kind of caps off the project because he's been a young wonder kid, you know, who's grown up at this team. We've won the Premier League. But if you've got Rodgers, you've got Eze, you signed Ødegaard for 30-odd million, you've got all of this outlay. He's on over 200-odd grand a week. There's been, fair enough, there could be talks, but there's been radio silence really around him and Kai Havertz. I wonder what happens there. And also I say that, James, because if I was to name what I would pick as Arsenal's strongest 11 and then do another 11 of what I think Mikel Arteta would pick, Mikel Arteta's one is probably going to have Kai Havertz and Martin Ødegaard up front. Now, in terms of getting to the other level, respectfully to these players, because they can help across a case of a season. Big up both of them. One scored in the Champions League final, and Ødegaard probably, you know, more had his moments off the bench. But can you get a better striker or facilitative 9 potentially than Kai Havertz? Potentially if the scouts do their jobs. And with Ødegaard, has he nailed down that spot ahead of what Rodgers could be, ahead of what Eze could be? And the best quality you can have, as much as I love Ødegaard, is availability. So it is one. I don't think, like you said, I think he's available for the right price. I think there's players who actively look to move on. The Benjamin Whites, the Ødegaards, maybe I think Miles Lewis-Skelly until he actually started playing in midfield, unfortunately. Wanyeri, we're not forcing you out actively, but everybody's got a price. That's where I think they're at. I actually think unless your name, everyone's got a price, but unless you're Raya, Saliba, Gabriel, I would say Saka and probably Declan, maybe a Timber and things of that, I wouldn't consider you anything near untouchable. That doesn't mean everyone's for sale, but that's just how I'm looking at it, man.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, this is what I love about these chats, that it sparks 3, 4, 5 different points I wanted to make. So firstly, someone mentioned that Hand of Arsenal deleted that repost. Sure, which could be oh no, by doing that, I'm making people think this, so let me stop it. Okay, cool, fine. It could easily be that. Also, it might have been a clue. He's done it a few times where things have been retweeted or reposted. Then you click on the notification.
Like Coventry, start the season.
It can happen, right? So cool. But fine. Let's not read too much into it. Big up, Max. Class. Right. Next thing. His contract expires in 2 years. Every update, Timber, Rice, Raya. We're working on it. We're close. It's happening.
Exactly.
Why have we not heard anything about Ødegaard? Why have we heard nothing about Kai Havertz? The only thing that tells me they're staying is Arteta starts them. But Arteta loved Granit Xhaka. He loved Granit Xhaka. He brought him back. He kind of saved him, really, and kind of changed the way Arsenal and Arsenal fans viewed him and how important he was in the team, and then sold him. So as much as we think Arteta's wedded to these players, I think he's brilliant at making them feel like they're super important, which they are. But I think he's always ready to make the next step. If he thinks, you know what,
That element of ruthlessness.
I don't think he looks at Kai Havertz and Ødegaard and goes, they're world class, they're world beaters. Like, you know, I can't possibly achieve what I want to achieve without them. I don't think he looks at them like that. But I think he thinks to beat PSG, I need a really coherent press. Therefore, Kai Havertz and Ødegaard are my best two for that.
And they've earned my trust.
That's how he thinks. Yeah. So that was two things. The third thing was Ødegaard. A big part of selling and getting good value is fundamental interest. Whatever people think of Ødegaard, they will be interested in him. I actually think Bayern Munich would sign him. And by the way, he'd cook in the Bundesliga.
Yes, it's just a feeling brilliant with Harry. It's crazy, bro.
With Harry Kane, Diaz, Elise, I think they want to add another winger. That Saibari's guy come in. He'd be brilliant. And he could play in a flat midfield 3 and a 10. He could do lots of things. Barcelona just missed out on Bernardo Silva. I know they're slightly different, but a left footer who can drift out to the right, support that side, be involved in build up for combos with Lamine Yamal. Some of you might laugh in the comments. Might go, lol, you think Ødegaard's going to play for them?
No, he can play Spanish football. That might be even more suited to him.
Put Ødegaard in a team that plays that kind of football. I promise you, he might not be as good as he might not. He won't become Pedri or Vitinha or whatever.
He'll be a useful member of that squad.
He'll lift his level and he'll be able
to
play.
How does Hansi Flick play?
Well, exactly. It's high intensity press. It's really in the attacking third, and it's quick 1-2s. He would suit. So I've got no doubt that Ødegaard could go, and that's why I actually don't want to sell him. For what we've seen the last few years, you'd think I'd be willing to. I actually don't. I don't want to sell him. I think if Arsenal are going to move,
him and Kai need to stay.
I think so. If we're going to move towards more free flowing football, I think you need Ødegaard. I think you do. And if you're signing a striker, and I love Gyökeres every time, maybe there's still room for 3, but I think there's more room for a Havertz in the squad if we're going to play more ball on the floor
that
football.
Fluidy kind of football.
Yeah. But anyway, so all this to say that I think Ødegaard, I'm 50-50 on whether he goes right now.
Like you said, it's got to be the interest. If there's interest, I think there's legs to it. I think there's a couple of players that will listen to offers for. I think there's players who are actively trying to move out. Obviously, things can change, and Bert has shown he can spin many a plate, yeah. But I do think the priority would be the Gabriel Jesus, the Reece Nelsons, potentially one of Trossard or Martinelli. Let's see kind of what's going on there. And for me, I just feel you've got to find that balance, and life is hypocritical in that. We do need to change in terms of personnel, in terms of the tactics, but you also need a bit of stability. And then I also look at it from a human point of view. Now, granted, I've never been a footballer, so I don't know how it is when a club's told you they're open to listening to offers or actively selling you, right? But Ødegaard, you're a valued member, kind of what you were saying. You're a valued member under Mikel Arteta. Kai's the same. We see how comfortable their wives and their little kids are. You've just won a Premier League. I know people hear Martin Ødegaard and the captain's armband and it sparks debate. I'm not here to do any of that, whether I think he should be the captain or not. I just have to concede whatever I believe about the man. There's stuff that he does that we're not privy to seeing, and he has delivered the first title under Arteta. So there must be something there. And I say that to say this. We don't know who the characters really and truly are in that dressing room. We know Gabriel Magalhaes looks a character. We know Declan Rice will stand up to be counted. We know Saka's becoming a bit of a villain. We hear it even with Timber and Marino, but we don't know. So you do need to keep these kind of characters. You mentioned Spurs. I actually think beyond the obvious why Robertson will be a good signing, because they've been a mess. He's been through the trenches. He will stand up to be counted. But James, I'm looking at Mikel Merino, Kai Havertz, Trossard and Martinelli in debate. Let me ask you a question, yeah, because in fact, the first question I'm going to ask you, yeah, if you've got Rodgers, Eze, and obviously Ødegaard, we know they can play here, there, and everywhere, and they're all fit and firing. Who do you think plays in that role? That's the first question. Because I want to stay on this midfield thing. Who do you think starts? And let's assume Rodgers is up to gear with everything tactically. Let's make it a bit more difficult.
I promise I will answer it, but just to add, I see them as three completely different players. And you're right, they all play in the 10, essentially.
That's why
I
asked
see
you this.
Eze as a left winger who drifts inside. I see Rodgers as a final third runner and ball carrier. And I
Chaos.
see Ødegaard as an all-round playmaker. So
Connecting the
I
dots.
think Ødegaard's an 8, a creative 8. I think Rodgers is an attacking midfielder 10. And I see Eze is like not an inside forward, but like an not inverted winger either. But he's like a wide playmaker, basically. So if all are fit and firing at their very best, I still think it's Eze and Ødegaard. And I think this is where I'm hesitant. I still am not sure, as Rodgers has been unbelievable for 2 seasons. Way better than Ødegaard in the last 2 seasons. Can all agree on that? Any Villa fans in the chat can all agree. Ødegaard, Rodgers today is a better player than Martin Ødegaard, has been for 2 seasons. But I don't think Rodgers has ever got to the level Ødegaard got to in 22-23 and 23-24, albeit that's 2 seasons ago. So, all right, that's different maybe players, so long ago that you just leave it. But I don't think Rodgers... Ødegaard in 23-24, the second half of the season, had me going, I think he's world class. I think this is one of the best midfielders in the world. He
needs a clean run from injuries, man. And he just needs it.
And by the way, I was wrong and it fell away, and cool, fine, that aged poorly. But he played at a level that made me wonder that. For all his brilliance, I still haven't looked at Rodgers and gone, I think you're world class. I think he could produce world class moments. I think he's an incredibly decisive player with a very, very, very rare set of attributes. That power, I don't want to just reduce him to power, but that is rare. That ability to carry.
And we need
that well with that much like accuracy and fluidity, and to be able to like have those decisive moments, to find the top corner not once but twice in games, like against Man United. This is like rare quality. But thank you, I appreciate that. But I still just don't think he's got to Ødegaard's level of 22-24 yet, personally. So I think the other two are ahead for me in the pecking order, but not today. Not if Rodgers arrived now, he's the best 10 of the lot. If we signed him today and tomorrow was the first game of the Premier League season and you ask me who starts in the 10, it's Morgan Rodgers, because I don't see Eze as a 10 and Ødegaard hasn't been great. So there we go.
That's what I mean. I think the only reason Ødegaard would probably start is he's captain. He's probably ahead in terms of the system. Honestly, and it's been a throwaway comment, but I've wanted Morgan Rodgers since he came through at West Brom. I really wanted this guy at my football club. And I have been saying kind of in a throwaway comment, like generally more like around May, when you see half the left wingers we're linked with, I'm actually more for scouts doing their jobs. Now, I might not be up in arms at the entry of this player signing for the club because it's not like getting an Alexis Sanchez, but I look at the left wing market as a novice. Rafael, decent player, not 100% convinced. Nico Williams, not 100% convinced. Rashford, etc. And we can do this all day. Morgan Rodgers, I don't think you're going to cut your teeth consistently at Arsenal as a left winger. And I know it kind of goes against what I've been saying we kind of need. And as you said, you know, we don't necessarily sign players that immediately fix the first port of call. But I'm for it purely because a bit like Ødegaard, and let's be real, the one thing regarding this starting 11 is he knows the system. He knows everything he does off the ball, because on the ball, it's been a bit patchy. He understands that. I don't think Rodgers will do it to that level anytime soon. But coming through the City Academy or via West Brom, obviously learning from Pep in that regards, being Unai Emery's kind of project, I think you have an appreciation for that. The main thing that attracts me, as you said, he's chaotic. He's going to run in behind. We need every tool we can get to break down low blocks. He's clearly intelligent and able to play everywhere. I think his strongest role is probably where Ødegaard and Eze would reckon they want to kind of play. I think in years to come, he might be groomed to play in a potential pivot because he's got that legs. He obviously would probably, if we named Arteta's strongest 11 or what you and I think is the strongest 11, his easiest path of entry potentially is off that left-hand side. But one thing that also attracts me to Rodgers, James, is that right-hand side. He's played there plenty of times for Aston Villa. Now, I hope we're living a movie and Saka's back up to form. Dalman's doing what he's been doing and taking it to other levels. Credit to Noni. You've had your kind of moments, even though I don't necessarily believe in you. But, you know, for me, I've said this to you before. If it's not really Saka and Dalman, I ain't really trying to hear that. Rodgers might be able to do something off the right. But then, how much does he cost? How much does that affect the caliber of left winger we're going to go for? And that even leads me to ask you about potentially a Barcola. Like, where do you stand? Because everything I've said suggests that I'm not for the Barcola signing, but I am actually on taking that risk if it could happen. And I say that to say this, James, is none of our attacking players are bad, but when you isolate them, they don't really get numbers. So as a collective group, we kind of need the answers for these questions now and years to come, man.
Yeah. Well, Barcola is interesting. And you're right about Rodgers. I think he aids the right anyway, because whether he's starting there or not, did you see some of the combos with Bukayo Saka when he came on for England? Like him, Spence, and Saka. And I hate that includes a Tottenham player, but those three had the kind of understanding I think Arteta wants more in this team that we've lost since White, Ødegaard, Saka. All three of them have had injuries. All three of them have had problems. So I think he's trying to rebuild that a little bit. But the way to... For every ball to feet player, there's got to be an off the ball movement. And Ødegaard is so ball to feet. He's so ball to feet and always has been. Right. Saka's becoming more ball to feet because of the injuries and everything. Like, I think it's fair to say, without writing him off, that he's lost that explosiveness. Whether he rediscovers it, that has gone a little bit, and we know why, because of the problem he's got.
He's not been fully fit.
Ben White certainly isn't in the team, as Timber isn't as mobile in the final third as Ben White is. So we've lost a lot of that. So I think he's trying to build a lot of combos. And he will be preparing for Max Dowman. Now, that's not Max Dowman coming in and Saka leaving. That's dynamics that prepare for Dowman to be a part of this team. Because the talent he is, he'll be a part of this team. So that could be Dowman as a 10, but left-footed. Therefore, Rodgers needs to be able to find the inside in another way off his right foot. There's a balance there. Or, and everyone hates this, but Dowman is the starting right winger when he's ready. He's very give the ball to feet. You don't want to roll the ball in behind to Dowman. It's give him to feet so he can run at players. But someone's got to take players away. Someone's got to make the runs for him to pick you out.
That's where the midfield.
And then people going, well, where's Bukayo Saka? And this is where I feel Saka moves central. I've long said he's got all the attributes to be a striker. Everyone laughs me out the room when I mention Saka up front. I think he's got all
crazy
the
until you can see the madness.
Listen, Alexis Sanchez did it. I think they've actually got a lot more similarities than people realize in terms of their power, the type of pace they have, and actually their ability to do things out of nothing. So I think they're more comparable. Alexis has got a bit more natural flair, but Saka's got so much of Alexis. And I think people will think I'm crazy for saying that, but because Alexis, I think, is a little easier on the eye. But I think
people will just hear that and go mad. When you actually listen to what you said, you can see it.
Listen, when Alexis went up front, he was better in the air. He was quite good in the air for someone who's under 6 foot. I think that's true of Saka. He was very, very strong. He was able to pin players and be like a wall pass, even if he wasn't 6'3". He was very good with both feet. He was a very good finisher. He was more often the guy we went to for GA. That has always been Saka. But he had enough pace to be able to run in beyond as well. And I always say to people who laugh at me about Saka up front, look at his goal at the Bernabeu. Mikel Merino gets the ball, slips a little through ball, and he's just peeled off and he's dinked it over the keeper.
He's got a couple goals like that.
He can do it, man. He can absolutely do it. So
Rodgers might even play as a false nine.
Well, and then there's that. And then Dowman moves inside, and then Saka's out. So they are preparing for Max Dowman. I know they are. So I don't know they are. I just know, I believe
they have to be, yeah.
So with Barcola, if you noticed, I take about 10 minutes to actually answer your question. Sorry.
No, we're hearing this because you take us on a journey, and I'm seeing the tactical stuff, man. You're here for us to know your thoughts, James, man. Don't ever think you're taking too long to answer questions. True gentleman, man.
On Barcola, I think he's a must sign. Now, if you go and get, let's think about this. If you go and get an overlapping, sorry about can you hear the sirens in the background?
Yeah, police are doing their job.
Like the noisiest high street in the whole of London. It's unbelievable. Anyway, honestly, it's such a peaceful area, and I'm forever hearing sirens. I'm like, what is going on? But anyway, I hope all is well.
It's the summer, man. Let's hope everyone's cool.
So if you go get an overlapping fullback, and then you sign Nico Paz as well, and you've got Eze, Rodgers, Paz, Dowman, you're covered in central areas. Marino too, you're fine.
Wenger would be proud.
He'd be very proud of that. But you need the overlapping full. You need people to be constantly bombing that channel, because otherwise you've got no width in the team.
Yokeres, Kai, Rodgers are needed for that.
Right. If you aren't, and you're going to do the whole centre backs at fullback thing, invert the odd fullback or whatever, then we've got to get some we have to get some proper pace on the wing. Now, Martinelli's got a lot of pace, but he's just not been at it for ages. Barcola's proper pace. We need someone like that. We need a real dangerous left winger. And there aren't many on the market, mate. I don't know who else I could possibly mention, but there aren't many.
This is what I said earlier, James. It's either scouts have to do their jobs or you scratch your head.
Well, people are saying like, oh, you guys aren't talking about Solis enough. Like, because
I like that signing. Don't get it twisted, but that's telling me that's just a bit of renewing our attacking evolution and just making sure we got some players. That's looks like more of a Trossard replacement. I go back to what James said in that we are missing that blister in place. Like, as I alluded to, if we get that Greek guy in, I do think that's more of a Trossard replacement than Martinelli. Maybe we don't go as aggressively for Barcola. But I think, I just think that's a kind of B-tier signing with the greatest respect. Like, you're being signed for the squad and you can do your thing, but I don't think you're going to be the star until you earn it. I don't know, though.
You know, it's fine, but I'm talking about winning the league again and then going maybe one further and winning the Champions League at some point in the next few years. And, I'm looking at... Someone's just made a great point. Martinelli's pace is without the ball, whereas Barcola with the ball. That's a really, really good point.
100.
But I Solis.
I'm gonna ask a question about Barcola on that as well, man. But go on.
Yeah, I think Solis is. Yeah, if Trossard goes and Solis comes in, cool. That will literally be my reaction. Cool. Yeah, he looks a good player. He's a good player,
intelligent footballer,
and his output's fantastic. Yeah, that's all I really feel. That was an interesting question, by the way, from the Villa fan. What was he asking? 5 years on Rodgers' contract. How much does he think we'll pay for him?
How much would we be looking to pay?
What do you think?
You see the rumors, yeah, and again, we've heard many of rumors about the FFP and all of that kind of stuff. He is contracted in 5 years. Fair enough, he's not playing a starting role for England, but as the World Cup goes on, that adds a couple more pennies. He's not just done well this season; it's off the back of last season. He has got that English tax. From all the rumors you see, he seems to like Arsenal, and we like him for whatever reason. Personal terms are not an issue, but it comes down to Aston Villa. Now, on one hand, if they really quote unquote need the money, then their position is weakened. We might be able to. If I believe what I think they're going to do, you're going to try and drive this up as much as you can. He's allegedly given his word to Arsenal that that's what he wants to do. If he sat there and told Aston Villa it's Arsenal or nothing, which I don't know if you'd lay all your eggs on that table when negotiations are going on, that's conversations I'm not privy to. I don't necessarily subscribe to this because a lot of Villa fans I speak to and a couple that you've worked with on TalkSport, they're of the belief 80 million, 85, they might do it and it can accelerate very quickly. Now, maybe it's not that I'm pessimistic. I'm just more looking at the asset they've got. I'm trying to drive that as far as 100-odd million quid. You're seeing more. I know the different players, and you could argue like the more uglier kind of players rather than the technical proficient ones. Like Anderson is more of a workman with the greatest of respect. Could be probably more sure bets for 100-odd mil. But you're going to look at that. You're going to look at Rice. You're going to look at potentially if Adam Wharton goes 85, 90, I think it goes to 100. I actually feel we do it just short of Declan Rice's, but then it could be slightly over. So I think the 100, you got to be looking at that 100 million mark, late 90s. Where are you at with it?
It's difficult, man. The reports are saying, look, what goes in our favor? The reports are saying that they're willing to do a deal around 80, 85 million, that they're open to it. We know they've had financial issues over the years that could put them in a position where they have to do something actually a little bit more urgently than they needed to. Now, Villa fans can correct me if actually the financial stuff has sorted itself out, but I don't believe they're out of the woods with that at all. It was only recently a financial expert on the overlap, I think, said that, Villa are one to keep an eye on. The other thing is that if he's made it quite clear he wants Arsenal, then Arsenal don't have to get in a bidding war because Chelsea can bid all the money they want. Villa can accept all the money they want. But Rodgers can go, well, no, I know Arsenal are there and I want that until, maybe push does come to shove and they're told, listen, unless Arsenal match it, you're not going. So there's a few things to keep an eye on. But here's where I think we need to just take a step back as Arsenal fans. We are getting what I call a lot of, it's really good backup info. When Fabrizio Romano or David Ornstein comes with an exclusive, and then you get all the backup info that then filters through for like days and days and days and weeks and weeks and weeks till they come with the next one. This is all backup info. Now, I'm not trying to disrespect Hand of Arsenal because he has been A1
legend, man. Love him.
News. He's unreal. But also, with all the love in the world, I've actually we've spoken because he's a class act and he's class about the
A true
content we do.
gentleman, man.
Whenever he
I'm
bigs you up,
here
he's a
as
real
well. Like,
real
big him up.
gentleman. I also don't know anything about him. Like, being really candid, I don't know. I don't know whether he's a journalist. I don't know how he knows this. Actually,
Just a connected individual, whoever he is.
Yeah, I don't know his name. Like, right. So what I'm saying is, he's class. He's absolutely brilliant. But I don't. It's David Ornstein and Sammy, maybe Sammy Mockbell as well. Ornstein, Mockbell, and Romano, journalists. I'm not saying Hand isn't a journalist. I'm just saying we haven't heard it's a bid. Arsenal have made a bid. Arsenal have opened talks. Arsenal have agreed terms with Rodgers. Arsenal officials have met with Villa and they're hashing out a deal. And it reminds me a lot of when we were in for Rice. I'm going to sneeze. It's hay fever. Let me see if I can hold this out.
As a hay fever sufferer, I know how that feels, man. Bless you in advance and on behalf of the chat, man.
Like, I'm muted in time. All right, cool. Thank you. I remember this was a very similar thing with Declan Rice. It started a bit earlier, though. It started January of 2023. With all this build up. And it was quite a while before we heard of a first bid. I remember Robbie on AFTV, shout out Robbie. He said,
Eze and Gyökeres followed this logic as well.
Yes, they did. You're so right. They said something on Robbie said something on AFTV Transfer Daily, the first one of the summer 2023. He said, I think a lot of you think that this Rice thing is a lot more advanced than it is. Talks have happened, and we know he's going to leave this summer, but Arsenal don't really have this wrapped up. And I think that's how we're acting. Like, we've got this wrapped up. We'll just agree a fee and on it goes. He's at the World Cup. I have a feeling this is going to go on. I think it's going to go on until mid-July, mate. I think it's going to go on minimum. And I think
fair, because the World Cup ends 11th. Could do.
And I think this could be an opening bid of 85 million that's knocked back. I think Chelsea and a shock team like a Man City or a City or a PSG or a someone, Liverpool might come in the race. I think that will big it up. And then I agree with you. I think we might spend 110 million on getting this done. I have a real feeling it's going to go in a similar pattern. It's not going to be as cheap as we think, and it's not going to be as quick as we think. I think this could really drag on, because why would Villa just go, yeah, 85, let's get it done? No, there's too much history there now.
It's how quickly they want it gone, James. It's how quickly they want, respectfully, I don't want to sound like, mate, Rodgers has been a revelation for them. He's won the Europa League. I don't want to make out he's been a dark cloud, but obviously key player, someone they would love to keep, very good talent, central to what they're going to be doing actually in the Prem or the Champs. I'm of the belief, and I know it's not as easy as this, but when you have situations like this, I think it's best if all parties just move quickly, we can accept reality and do what we're doing. They had to have known at some point Rodgers could move on. They've even been linked with Gibbs White, etc. But it is one that can drag on. The only thing I would say is, well, I'm used to, as we said, we said all the bigger signings, they take forever. I'm used to being a bit patient. I think Berta, Arteta and now were doing things I actually have to trust them, because we was all mad about Madueke being signed first and we saw how the window ended. But then on the other hand, James, I am getting jealous, man. I know it's, I'm seeing moves before the World Cup, probably going to be moves after it. But a lot of, like you mentioned, Bernardo Silva and this one and that one. There's not really the greatest of examples, unless you look at Cucurella. Deals are being done during the World Cup, and I just love it for Rodgers. But again, there's a lot of moving parts, and if we don't get Rodgers, we'll probably get someone else that would be crazy. I do believe we end up getting Rodgers just as an armchair expert, just because he seems the one we really want to go for. But then I want to go back to Barcola, yeah. Obviously, I've seen Barcola. He's done well. He's a good player. I'd have him, to the point where I'm actually a hypocrite, because a lot of the reasons I want him, I don't necessarily think we need profiles like where they've got unreleased potential, but he hasn't realized his potential. I think a lot of his moments do come when there's a lot of space, and I get the pace, but the reality is we're playing against low and deep blocks and stubborn units week in, week out. He is another player, while talented, and I would love him to sign that. We would talk similar kind of talk around Martinelli and Noni Madueke in terms of greater consistency, greater decision-making, and we're all kind of betting on that. Like, is it the signing that's really an upgrade on paper? Like, not just because he's better allegedly than Martinelli or Trossard, but is this really the guy? Because there's a lot of expectation on him.
I think it is. Now, it depends what you call the guy. We're not asking someone to come in and win us the title, because we've just won the title. So the question is, what does being the guy mean? Adding a really dynamic, exciting element to our team that's been missing for a little while. You know, Bukayo Saka's got injuries. Trossard and Martinelli, who I think over their time under Mikel Arteta have actually given us a lot. Certainly in terms of work ethic, it's incredible. Commitment from Martinelli, some of the moments he's had, but also Trossard being clutch in big games. So those two came for a combined. What's that, sorry?
Cult hero, Trossard.
Yeah. And you know what? Trossard and Martinelli, I know there's a lot of criticism for them. I know we used to say this about El Neni. They came in for a combined £34 million. They have more than delivered on those transfer fees and original expectations.
I'm very
so
well.
My love to them as Premier League winners will always be there. But it's not, in my opinion, going to be that difficult to improve on them from a flair, entertainment, excitement, get you off your feet perspective. Now, that's not enough. You need to be clutch, which Trossard is. You need to be an incredibly hard worker, which both are. By the way, I actually think Martinelli's quite clutch. You need to have raw pace, like a real dynamism we haven't seen on and off the ball, as was mentioned. There's still a lot, but I think in terms of a winger that makes you go like, wow, like, I think Barcola. You know, people are mentioning Nusa. I think Nusa does that. I think Diamande does that. I think a lot of these players, you kind of go, all right, like, and I'm not sure they do that, if I'm really honest. I think they're brilliant in different ways. But I think Arsenal really need to add some of that. So funny. There was a bit of a, you know, people talked about Arsenal being scary, didn't they, last season when we went on that great run? But are we a scary team? Klopp's front three was scary. You know, Trent and Robertson into the box was scary. De Bruyne, David Silva, Fernandinho, that was scary. Sane and Sterling. Are we scary? I think we can add some scary into this team quite easy. We're very efficient. We are brilliantly coached. We've got lots of other talent and assets and skill sets in our front three. But I don't think we're scary. And the scariest is Saka when he's in full flow. And he hasn't been, in my opinion, since, well, he's been on and off since the big injury.
Where do you stand on the striker debate as well? Obviously, big up Kai, big up Gyökeres. On paper, you do have Marino. On paper, you still technically got Gabriel Jesus, even though I think even he believes he'll probably be moved on. Where do you stand on the striker one? If you could get one, not necessarily Krupi or Julian Alvarez, if there was a profile that you really wanted and it was doable, would you do it? Or would it be something where, you know, we've spoken about left backs, right backs, central midfielders, left wingers, a kind of multifunctional Rodgers? Is that something you'd park off for 12 months or 6 months if you wanted to do it in Jan?
Yeah.
I do like Krupi, man.
He's class. He's brilliant. Just to Johnny in the chat, he said Klopp's defense wasn't as scary as ours. Yeah, I wouldn't use the word scary, though. I'd use the word stubborn. I think that's the difference. True. You know, defense is irritating. You watch a really good defense, you're just angry and irritated and frustrated because they're stubborn.
That's why they hate us.
You're not scared. Like, I've never been scared of Van Dijk. I've just acknowledged he's world-class and unbelievable. We might not have an answer here, but scary is really reserved for the final third players. But I'm being very pedantic, but I get what he's saying. Now, the striker thing, I'm an R over this all the time, mate. I have no idea.
I'm happy to ask someone else, man. Same.
Do you know, sometimes I look at Havertz. I can't believe I'm about to say this.
I know what you're going to say, though.
Sometimes I look at Havertz and I go, I don't even rate him this much. I actually don't even rate Havertz that much. But sometimes I stop and go, are there actually that many better strikers in the world?
And this is the conundrum.
Like,
and it's not to say he's amazing and that, really? But looking at what you need, you're scratching your head right now. Let scouts do their jobs. Or this can go for the select few.
But like, let's go through it. Okay, Isak and Haaland are at Liverpool and City. Well,
that's but for obvious reasons, we're not prizing that. Then you got a Julian Alvarez. I would do it if we could. Obviously, it's not looking realistic, so that's another one. You might go for Krupi. Are we going to put 100 big boys down this season? Potentially not. I like Kai. I like Gyökeres. I just really want to have a striker where I kind of bet on you for 30, 38 games. I know we can't grab a Haaland. We've got a lot of these players that can kind of help us throughout a season, but like, there's some things where they fall short, and it's not me being negative. It's like, let's help them to help us. Where they fall short, have other players that make up the difference. like I said earlier, our attackers, they have their moments, but greatest consistency. Because there'll be times when we're looking at Kai to bag, and he won't.
It's why I look at the false nine thing. I like the false nine thing because I think I'd rather get a front three of absolute undisputed quality in the team, whether they're natural nines or not, rather than try and like keep hoping that Havertz becomes the consistent forward we need. Now, some people say he's not clinical. I say that, but other people say, yeah, but he gets lots of chances, and that's the key stat. Does he get opportunities? Because if he does,
he's one of the best footballers off the ball in our team. But
well, there we go. So he's a really difficult one, Kai. Gyökeres is a similar thing. You know, Gyökeres has been balling out for Sweden this World Cup. You've seen the hold-up play.
Gyökeres is doing his thing. I got time for
passes and crosses with his weaker foot. Some of the link-up plays been sensational. Like
you can see the confidence reinstalled in Gyökeres as well. In fact, his mentality is his best strength, anyways. Big up Gyökeres for what he did.
And do you know what I have learned from this World Cup, mate? And this is I really think if there's one thing anyone takes from me from this whole pod, and I don't have a lot of insight, but I think this is one. Wirtz balling out of this World Cup or looked really good certainly in that first game. Gakpo looked great against Sweden. Yeah, Gakpo was it a goal and assist or 2 goals, whatever it was. Gyökeres looking brilliant at this World Cup. Madueke was a threat for England.
Best game in a minute. Even Cunha had a decent game for Brazil.
Absolutely. I've just mentioned 4 forwards in the Premier League who basically everyone doesn't think are all that. Like they're not really rated. No one really thinks they've had great seasons in the Premier League at all. Some have been really mocked and criticised. Kai Havertz has been very good for Germany. Certainly that first game was a real threat. So is it the forwards or is it just so difficult to deliver in this current version of the Premier League?
Both.
Is it just so difficult to be a forward in this current Premier League unless you're world class? Because they've all gone to the World Cup. And Gakpo looks a world beater. Like
there's more space.
Phenomenal. There's way more space. Trossard, did he create 5 chances or something yesterday for Belgium?
Yeah. Especially in the second half of these games.
If we saw Trossard, he didn't play for us, we'd be going, oh, he'd be class.
Is that why you're going to get the Greek guy when Trossard's there?
Martinelli came on for Brazil and looked $1 million. Not $1 million, that wouldn't be enough. He looked
significantly better.
Like, so I'm at the point where I'm like, that's why I talk about raw, like undisputed pace. That's why I talk about that. Like, because at least then I know you're definitely adding something different. Like,
I hear it. You know what? I hear that.
Do you get what I'm saying? Then I go, well, that's the key difference that across any league is translatable. Your pace is just something else. Or there's got to be a technical quality you have that can't be matched. So Gyökeres' finishing is one of them. I'm trying to think of others, but, you know.
At this moment in time, Martinelli's pace.
Yeah.
I would actually say Kai Havertz is all-roundness in this squad. Like, again, there's a lot of players. This isn't negative. This isn't positive. There's a lot of players I accept you for what they are. Even when, you know me, I always talk about potential. I do talk about a lot of these players' potentials, but to a degree, I accept you for what you are. Kai, I know you're a floater. Off the ball, you're probably one of the most intelligent. You're going to score goals, but when it's time to be clinical, you probably don't have that. Gyökeres, your general play is improved. You're probably never going to be mine or anyone's really consistent cup of tea, but you've got better at that, and you have the ability to score goals, or as James said, his ability to put the ball in the back of the net, that's above everyone. There's moments for Trossard and Martinelli, but that's where I was at with our recruitment. I kind of want these questions finding answers, and as much as I like Barcola's pace and I think he will harm people, I think you do have that Martinelli thing of you make, if there's 3 actions to score a goal, the 2 actions will be great. You probably won't probably score on a more consistent basis. Of course, you could work with that, and I'm all for that. But, and then I deep it, how much open space is there going to be? Like, generally, because there's going to be a lot of the times you are playing against low blocks, and I hear it, he takes people on, he's quick with a ball. You can't kind of find an answer for me. But this is what I mean about scouts doing their jobs, James, man, because whether it is Barcola, Leao, Rashford, this one, that one, I wouldn't say there's 100% conviction in any of them, if I'm brutally honest. This is what makes this market interesting. I have to ask you about centre midfield again, James, as well, man, before while you're carrying on. Like, would you go Bawardi or Tonali? Because I'm more of a Bawardi guy. I think potential, all of that. But if we're doing it, trying to just do this right now thing, Tonali's there.
Yeah, I'll keep it quick on this one. But I think I'd rather roll the dice on Buadi's ceiling than I would Tonali's current level. Now
I hear
Tonali
it.
would come in and probably do a job quicker than Buadi. But we've got Rice and Zubimendi and Lewis Skelly. All three of them have a claim to be starting in this Arsenal midfield. If we keep Ødegaard, then you can go with a flat 3 or say a 6 and 2 10s. I'll go Buadi, but he's more of a 6. And then I'm like, that's a lot of 6s. So listen, I don't have a clear preference. I'm 51-49 towards Buadi. But
yeah, I'll go with that. 60-40 even for me.
Yeah,
it's a weird one, James, man. Like, and even just saying that, I had the thought when you were saying that, and I went back when you mentioned Nico Paz. I found myself asking myself two things, James. One, are we going to be even more diabolical for the oppositions for a bunch of reasons through central areas, whether that is, a Morgan Rogers running behind, a Miles Lewis-Skelly providing a different dynamic, a rejuvenated Zubimendi, a multifunctional Rice, the Eze's, the havoc you could cause with an Ødegaard, Eze, etc. And the next one would be, how are we going to fit that all in? Because surely that gives more reason to an Ødegaard leave, because you can't do it. And then you've got Wanyeri as well.
Yeah.
So,
well, this is really difficult because I'm like, because we've moved to a double pivot midfield, but then I'm like, what I love about the double pivots is they all complement each other really well. Like Marino can play with, we see Marino now as a final third player. He can play with Zubimendi really easily. So we shouldn't discount him from there. But then Lewis Skelly, both him and Rice can trade who goes forward. And actually, Zubimendi is more that kind of player than I realized. So if we played Zubimendi and Lewis Skelly in midfield, that would have been seen as lightweight maybe a year ago, or certainly before Lewis Skelly's breakthrough. Now, having seen what we've seen of them, that's a robust midfield. They might be under 6 foot. It doesn't matter. They are strong, good in the air. Like they can be powerful players in their own right. So I really like the more. I like Alex Scott. You asked me Tonali and Buadi, right? If you asked me Scott, he would have won the debate for me. That is the more That's the more creative 8 type that I like, who can also bring the legs in midfield, who can also.
If we weren't getting Rodgers, I'd go for him.
Do you not think he plays a bit deeper than Rodgers, though? Do you not think he plays a bit deeper than Rodgers, though?
Yeah, he does. He's more of a conductor. I just feel like with Eze, with on paper Wanyeri, with Ødegaard, with Rodgers, I kind of have enough of those. Like, that's kind of why I'm even more happy Lewis Skelly's playing in midfield, because you're just kind of a raw option. Of course, you can play 6 or 8, but you're a bit different to what we have / brought out. I know me and you in passing comment made that joke about Wenger would be proud of what we've got, but I do think we're getting that. I do think we're getting more balance, and this is where I lean towards. You sold Barcola to me a lot better, because I do want that balance. I want the pretty players that want to all come to feet and play in congested areas. I want a Rodgers who's going to run in behind. Maybe Gyökeres would benefit from that. And a Barcola who, let's have it right, I'm not trying to slate Martinelli. I'm not using this to praise Barcola, because the bar arguably could be on the floor, but you are better than Martinelli. So it would be interesting. My last question for you, James, because I know you got to get out of here. Yeah? What player for you in this team do you think has the most approved next season?
Ooh.
I got to say the best till last, man. There's 2 for me.
Yeah, this first one's gonna be a really rogue shout, but I'm gonna have Saka in there, and that's most improved on the season he's just had. Which, by the way, I don't think was a bad season, man. Saka. He can just manage this injury first. He might need to do a tricky first few months. We don't see a lot of him, but I think by the second half of the season, he's going to be on it. I think they're going to give him the Dembele treatment. Just try and nurse him into the right. I don't know. Just sort what needs to be sorted. Given the time he needs.
Good for England, to be fair.
Yeah, and I think he's going to come back electric. So Saka's one of them. Next one for me is Zubimendi. I think Zubimendi next season. The thing is, Gyökeres is up there too. Gyökeres, after a season of bedding in, I could see the goals flowing for him now easily, especially now that we kind of know what he is, and the expectation will be lowered, but we also know he can deliver. So I think Gyökeres is definitely a shout. I'm backing Zubimendi. I think we know that 6s, Fabinho, Rodri, they've always taken time. I've seen the tweets, City fans who didn't rate Rodri. Fabinho took a little bit of time to settle. I remember that. Now, suddenly, these are 2 of the best 6s that the Premier League has seen in the last decade. Or more. And I think we could put Zubimendi, maybe not in the category of those 2, but in the category of a 6 who is going to blossom in that role now. And I think he's going to be brilliant. He's going to barely play at the World Cup, and he'll come back ready to go. So Zubimendi for me, I think I'm backing him next season.
It's a weird one with Zubi because I think he did the reverse Eze and Gyökeres in that their season started slow. They ended it kind of strong. It was Zubimendi was in player of the season shouts. I think he statistically had the most amount of goals he scored in a single career. Obviously, there's a lot of minutes. They're the excuses I can give him. Unfortunately, Zubi, I just think your form went rubbish. I think Miles Lewis-Skelly came in at the right time. I do think he lost a lot of confidence, but I make you right. So I can't knock that. For me, and to wrap this up, I'd say Martin Ødegaard purely because I believe in you. I think you're a quality player. I think you're one of the best in our side. I've kind of given up on the 2022-23 goal scoring, but that's gone. I think you're a conductor. Arteta likes you, but some people would rather Wanyeri there. Morgan Rogers hasn't signed for my club, and I personally think he would start ahead of you. I like what Eze brings. You mentioned it in passing comment, but depending on some of our midfielders, we could do away potentially with an 8.5 and revamp it. So, and you are the captain. History might be unkind or kind to you. I could be a bit shameless to ended our 22-year drought, but I think you need to remind people who you are, Ødegaard, if I'm completely honest. So I'd go with them. Apart from that, I think everyone in it, we got to prove we're not flash in the pan, James, and just retain this Premier League. I've never been more convinced we can do something. Me and you the same age, so we've both never seen it in our lifetime. Obviously, James, all good things have to come to an end. It's been a long time. It's been a fantastic chat. What content you got to come out, man?
I appreciate it. Well, I don't know why I put myself through this, but daily World Cup content on Football First. So thank you to those who have been tuning in. It's out every day at 9 a.m. So it's been early starts. But yeah, the Goonerverse, just my updates on the news. It's very much news focused at the moment. But obviously more to come when we sign players. We'll get the tactics board back out and do all that. But man, thank you for having me, man. I really appreciate it, man. It's always a great chat. It flies by. I didn't even clock. I was like, oh my word. It's all good, but I've really enjoyed it. So thank you,
James, man. We've been here when it's not been positive, but
thank you.
We've done it, man. We've done it, man. And on that note, James, you've given up far too much of your time. Big up yourself. Go follow James and subscribe and support his content. And the chat, you lot are the real MVPs, man. So yeah, everyone, we're out. James, shout me when you need me on your platform. You know I'm there, man. In a bit.
Will do, my friend.
Come on, my guy. Chat, we're out. You can do this, you can sound good.
Against this right back, Charlie, definitely.